From the IMTV WAVE Channel 5 studio at Greenville Senior High School, home of the Greenville Green Wave, the Greenville Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library proudly presents Never Stop Serving.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Never Stop Serving. I'm Samuel Plock and I am your host today for Never Stop Serving. This series is sponsored by Greenville High School's Interactive Media class and the Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library. Today, please welcome the Quartermaster of the VFW post number 5451 in Urbana, Fred Williams.
Thank you.
Fred, before we talk about you, let's ask you about your father. Tell us about him.
Well, my father went to Navy boot camp in January 1941. He was 17. He turned 18 October of 1941, and right after his 18th birthday, he was at the attack on Pearl Harbor. He was on the USS Nevada.
Wow.
And he was on the Nevada. Nevada was the only ship to get underway during the attack. Well, the only battleship to get underway. And they took the Nevada to the inlet coming into the port, and they ran it aground so it would block the port. They ran it aground at Hospital Point so that the Japanese couldn't get any submarines or anything into the harbor there at Pearl Harbor. He didn't talk about it much. He was on burial detail for 3 or 4 days after the attack, and he was an alcoholic from then on, pretty much.
Yeah.
He had some problems because they buried how many thousand people, men. After burial detail, he was still at Pearl Harbor because they were recommissioning the Nevada. He told me once that he did night watch on the USS Arizona about 3 or 4 weeks after the attack. And he said this was 3 or 4 weeks after the attack, and you could still hear the men down below decks banging to be rescued, but they couldn't get to them. They didn't have the technology we have now. They couldn't get to the men. That bothered him almost more than the attack itself. He was reassigned because the Nevada wasn't recommissioned yet. So he was reassigned to the USS Mount McKinley. And he was on the Mount McKinley towards the end of the war. And he was actually at Bikini Atoll, where they did the atom bomb testing. And actually, they put the Nevada, because it was going towards the end of the war, they put Nevada at Bikini Atoll to see if the atom bomb would sink a battleship. And it didn't sink. It withstood the atomic blast, and they pulled the plugs on it and sunk the Nevada. After the war, he got out of the Navy, and then right toward the end of the Korean War, my parents were divorced, and he joined the Army. He didn't go to Korea. He went overseas, but did not go into Korea during the Korean War. But he was in the Army during the Korean War. He actually served 2 tours in Vietnam before he retired from the Army. And then he passed away about 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, he was one of the last, not last survivors, but there weren't very many Pearl Harbor survivors after the war.
Wow.
And can I get a drink of water?
Yeah.
This is making me nervous, dry.
Fred, please tell us about your origin story, where you grew up, your parents, and basically your early life.
Well, I grew up in Springfield, Ohio. Not anything real important growing up. After high school, I enlisted in the Marines in 1967. I went to helicopter school. I was a helicopter crew chief. I flew the old UH-34D, which was the last of the recip engine helicopters. After helicopter school, I went to New River, North Carolina, part of Camp Lejeune, was assigned to a squadron there. And I was there about 2 months, And they said, okay, we're packing up, we're shipping out. And I thought, oh, we're going to Vietnam. Well, come to find out, we packed up and we went aboard the USS Boxer. The Boxer was an LPH. And I'm 18 years old, going on 19, and I spent 6 months in the Caribbean. Wow. And I thought, oh, this is great. I mean, it was great. And then after we came back from the Caribbean, I got orders to Vietnam. I went over in Vietnam in October '68, and I got orders to Vietnam. I was signed to a squadron, but at the same time I went over, within 2 weeks, my brother David went to Vietnam. And my mother, our mother, she got a hold of she called the Pentagon and got a hold of Sergeant Major Sweet, who was a Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps at the time. And she said, you have both my sons in a combat zone. Well, my brother David was back in what they call Eshal Valley, which is the boonies, back in the real war. I was at Quang Tree, so I was the easy one, so I got pulled out and sent to Okinawa. I was in Vietnam maybe about a month or so. And then I spent the rest of my tour overseas at Okinawa. I was with HAMS 15 Subunit 1. We only had 4 planes, and we just serviced the island. Like they had what we called the NTA, which was a northern training area in Okinawa that was jungle like Vietnam, where a lot of the Marines would train to go to Vietnam. And you couldn't get to it. You had to fly in. So we'd fly for food resupplies, we would fly troops in. We did a lot of maneuvers with the troops and so on while I was there. We did a lot of VIP flying. I flew General Westmoreland, General Buse. I flew Bob Hope and Ann Margaret when they were doing their USO tour for Christmas.
Wow, that's cool.
I flew a lot of VIPs that went through the island. Secretary of Navy, Secretary of State. When they would come to the island, we would fly them where they needed to go. So when I came back from Okinawa, I was assigned to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was there for about 2 months, and then they decided to take the helicopter squadron, combined it with a squadron up from Brooklyn Navy Yard, and we went to Lakehurst, New Jersey. I finished out my tour at Lakehurst. Lakehurst is where the Hindenburg crashed.
Oh.
It was where, if you ever get a chance to see it, they still have the dirigible hangars there. And we could actually have 5 or 6 squadrons in one hangar. They're so big. In the summer, if it was real hot and humid, it would rain inside the hangar. They were so big. And so,
wow.
So then I got out of the Marines in April of '71.
Hmm. Well, that's amazing. I mean, you got to chauffeur Bob Hope.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Didn't get to carry conversation. Helicopter was so loud that, you couldn't talk. But it was an experience. It was.
Yeah. I'll tell you, there's nothing more prouder than transporting celebrities.
Yeah, it was good. One of my highlights. Yeah.
Yes. Would you please tell us what branch of the service that you served for and how long did you serve?
I was in the Marine Corps. I got out as a Sergeant E5 in '71. Yeah.
And what was your job while you were in the military?
I was a helicopter crew chief, mechanic and crew chief. If my plane flew, I was assigned a helicopter, it was mine. And I did all the maintenance on it. If it flew, I flew. Actually, I flew co-pilot for probably 200-300 hours. If we only had one pilot, the crew chief would fly left seat if there weren't any passengers. So I actually flew helicopters quite a bit.
Wow. Your post is different because of partnership between the DAV and VFW. Please tell us about it.
Well, my post and the DAV VFW, we are blessed. We are truly blessed. The VFW had a little house up on Main Street in Urbana. The DAV had its meetings upstairs. We were going under pretty much. We couldn't get members. We needed to do something. And we were very, very fortunate. The old newspaper building in Urbana at 220 East Court Street had sat empty for several years. The owner was looking to get rid of it, and we worked a deal with him where we could buy it, and then he would take a loss and write it off on his taxes with what we came up with. And then Mike Miller, Mike passed away last week. He was the president of Perpetual Federal Bank in Urbana. And Mike gave us a loan for $400,000 unsecured. We thought we were using the building as security, but he gave us that unsecured loan. And we went in and we remodeled, did all of it ourselves. All but plumbing and electric. We couldn't do that because it had to be certified. We got a good bunch of men. We're blessed. We have we've been told it's probably the jewel of Ohio VFWs. We're proud. We're blessed. Yes. As you ever get a chance to go, stop by and see me.
Yes, as you should be proud, because it's quite an accomplishment.
It is. It was a DAV VFW. The state said we couldn't merge. So what we did is we put the building in the DAV name, where the VFW is being a 501c3. The VFW leases the building from the DAV. So that's how we do it. We could merge, but we are two separate entities, but we exist together. I'm actually the adjutant for the DAV and past commander of the DAV.
Okay, please tell us all about the Civil War cannon and its dedication.
Yes, like I say, our post is blessed. We really are blessed. During the let's say, go back a little bit. During the Vietnam War, there were 17 years in Vietnam. There were 10, and I say boys, Champaign County boys killed in Vietnam, KIA. During the 4 years of the Civil War, we had 587 Champaign County men, boys, killed in action during the Civil War. We had 7 Medal of Honor winners during the Civil War. One of our residents, Ron Williams, is a fabricator and a farmer. He purchased he lives on Pisgah Road. He purchased a second farm on Pisgah. Digging on the farm, he found a couple huge anvils. He got to digging more and found that it was a dump. Well, in digging more, he actually found a cannon barrel, Civil War era cannon barrel. And Ron is a fabricator. I mean, that's how anybody else would have just discarded it, used it as a doorstop or something, But Ron rebuilt the cannon to spec. It's beautiful, beautiful. Several museums had offered him quite a bit of money for it. Well, his brother, Jay, was my partner on the Logan County Sheriff's Office. And Jay was telling me, oh, you ought to see this cannon that Ron has. I went to look at it, and Ron said, well, I really need to get rid of it. Museums have offered to buy it, but if the VFW wants it, I'll give it to you for what I have in it. So we purchased a cannon from Ron, and we got to researching everything that Champaign County was involved in during the Civil War. And we decided what better memorial to do for our KIAs from the Civil War than put the cannon as a tribute to them.
Yes.
Like I say, we had 587 killed, 7 Medal of Honor winners. One of our Medal of Honor winners was Marion Ross. Marion Ross was one of the first Ohioans to enlist during the outbreak of the Civil War. He actually, in two and a half years, made the rank of Sergeant Major. Marion Ross was one of 22 others that was in the Anderson's raid. Anderson raid was where the North was going to attack Chattanooga. What they wanted to do was cut off the supply line from Atlanta so that they could attack Chattanooga and they couldn't get resupply. Anderson was a civilian. He was kind of like Secret Service or whatever during the Civil War. I don't know what they called that unit. But he took 22 men. All 22 were from Ohio.
Wow.
They all went down into Georgia. North of Georgia, they stole a locomotive. The locomotive was the General. They stole that locomotive and took it towards Chattanooga. The South got another locomotive, and it was actually, there was a movie made Walt Disney made a movie of the Great Locomotive Chase back in 50s, 60s. Fess Parker played Anderson. But anyway, they took the locomotive and they did as much destruction, tore up the tracks and so on their way towards Chattanooga. There was a large bridge. They tried to burn the bridge, but the bridge wouldn't catch fire. That was their main objective, was to knock out that bridge so Chattanooga couldn't get resupplied. Anyway, they ran out of fuel. They burnt the box cars. They burned all the wood they could. They ran out of fuel right about Ringgold, Georgia. And they all jumped off the train, dispersed into the woods. They were all of them, I think, were captured after that. Most of them were exchanged, did a prisoner exchange, and they were exchanged. But Marion Ross was hung as a spy in Chattanooga.
Wow.
He was actually the first Medal of Honor recipient to receive his medal posthumously. About a year after he was hung and buried in Chattanooga, he received the Medal of Honor.
Wow.
And his Medal of Honor is at the Champaign County Historical Society.
Wow.
So that's why we decided we really needed to get something to our soldiers from the Civil War, especially now with everybody trying to tear down all our monuments for the Civil War. We felt it was important that we do that.
It is important to honor our history.
Our dedication will be a week from today at 4:30 there at our post, 220 East Court Street.
Wow. That's something. I mean, it's important to not only honor veterans of the present, but the people passed on in the past wars.
Yep.
For historical sake.
Also, another reason for our canon, the Ohio 66th Infantry was formed in Urbana at Camp MacArthur, and the Ohio 66th Infantry fought at Gettysburg. If you see the movie Gettysburg, they leave out the Battle of Culp's Hill. Well, Culp's Hill was probably one of the most important battles of the Gettysburg the war during Gettysburg. The Ohio 66, because they held the ridge at Culp's Hill, the Union was able to win that battle. Had they not held, they wouldn't have won that battle. And there's a large monument on Culp's Hill now to the Ohio 66th Infantry, which was formed in Champaign County.
Yeah.
Another reason we got to dedicate to our fallen veterans.
Yeah, and that is so important. Past and present veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any special events or information to share with our viewers?
No, we just have our canon coming up, and we always do a Memorial Day service at the Urbana Cemetery on Memorial Day, morning of Memorial Day.
Here at Never Stop Serving, we highlight veterans that continue to serve beyond their military service. Please continue to watch for upcoming episodes of Never Stop Serving. Mark your calendars now, folks, for November 9th, 2024. It is the Season 10 Hee-Haw Talent Show. Back in the place where we started our mission at VFW post number 7262 in Greenville, Ohio. Stay tuned for more awesome details. Also, continue to watch the Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library Facebook page for upcoming events and updates. If you are a veteran and would like to share your story, please send us an email at gvmpdl@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. This is Samuel Plock, signing off.
Thank you for watching. Please visit us on our social media sites. Please consider contributing to our mission in some way. Also, we are always looking for veterans and their families to share their stories with us. Next year, our Hee-Haw Talent Show 10 will return to our home in Greenville, Ohio, where we will showcase our refurbished park and the hopeful return of the wall that heals. Be sure to join us next week for our next episode of Never Stop Serving. The Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library is grateful to our show sponsors: VFW of Ohio Charities, VFW Post 7262 Greenville, Rodney Oda CPA, VFW Post 7741 Clayton, American Legion Post 707 Englewood, DAV Dark County Chapter 57, VFW Sunday Bingo, Dennis Maloney and Family, VFW Post 5018 Free Pike, Fitzwater Outdoor Maintenance, VFW Post 9582 Vandalia, Robinson Salt Supply, A Clarity Salt Company, VFW Post 657 Riverside. The Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library is thankful to all our sponsors and humbly asks you to become one too.